Hey, what's up guys? In this video, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, but a little bit the same. Something that I did when I was starting out is I just made little ideas. And I think that's basically what the beginner should be doing. So I'm going to walk you through that and we're just going to do some stuff. So I'm going to basically delete everything. So this is what Ableton will look like more or less when you open it. You'll have an audio, maybe a MIDI, and maybe a send. We're not going to be needing that. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be right-clicking here and just selecting a bar for the grid. And we're going to be selecting one of these bars, right-clicking, and then looping the selection. And then we're going to set it back to narrow. So we're just going to be working in this space here. And right now it's on 16ths or whatever, the grid. Let's not get crazy. But this right here is a quarter, a quarter, a quarter, a quarter. And this is how I started out doing things. And I think the reason why is because I started in FL Studio, where like the main sequencer thing is just, a bar in length. And that worked out well for me. So when I rededicated myself to learning production, I was around 19 for my second phase, or maybe no, I was maybe 18. I had kind of experimented, but when I got to the point, I was like, this is what I want to do for my life goal. I want to learn how to do this. I want to be one of those people that makes records and stuff like that. This is basically what I just did. I don't know, I had a lot less sample packs back in the day, but whatever. Um, I was really into techno, and yeah, I would start out with just basic sounds. I'd start out with a kick, always a kick, and I would go through all these kicks, and I would never find one that I enjoyed. Hold on, I gotta turn this up just so we can get in the groove. I could never find one that I thought fit, and it was really frustrating. I'm like, where are these people getting all these kicks from? And what clicked for me is it's not really what the sound is, it's how it all fits together. And when I decided just to kind of let go of this like notion of perfection, like every sound has to be perfect, I got far. And like if you have a sound that's maybe 70% of what you want, more or less at the end of the track, it is exactly the sound that you need. Right? So I would just get something like that, and I drop it into an audio track. I would kind of experiment. I discovered fades, right? I would move the fade over, or else there'd just be like weird stuff happening during the attack of the kick, which is a common issue. And yeah, I would basically just start with this, and I'd obviously bring the BPM up. And I would just add on to it. And I wouldn't worry about the finished track. I would just get ideas and learn the skills. You know what I mean? Like I would be like, okay, I want a hi-hat. Where does that go? Well, it's basically in my muscle memory now, but back in the day I was like, well, I guess I kind of knew where it was. This is a little bit different than the Ableton grid, or not the FL Studio sequencer. But I figured out that, right? And I figured out like the duplication. What I would do back in the day is I would right click, or I wouldn't even do that. I would just copy. I would just kind of do it manually. And yeah, I'm a firm believer of the idea of first you get good and then you get fast. But before you get good, you got to like kind of figure out what you're doing. Like if you're learning Photoshop, you draw it, you drop in an image and you just give it a try. Like you try to like, counterfeit money. You don't start to counterfeit money right away in Photoshop. You work your way up to it. You know what I mean? Getty images and stuff. So yeah, and then I would be like, all right, and just exploring the DNA of a small idea. And this idea, this revelation came to me. I think there was like a Tiesto in the studio. Well, back when it was DJ Tiesto, and he had like a little tiny loop idea, and it was just looping. And I was like, "What? Like you don't make songs linearly? Like what the heck is going on here?" I couldn't wrap my head around. Mind you, this was like 2005. I couldn't wrap my head around like not writing a song linearly because I really enjoyed and I still enjoy electronic music. But you listen to them from start to finish, and I thought that's how they were made. And usually songs would start with a kick, so I'd start with a kick and stuff like that. And in my memory, which serves me well most of the time, in my memory, I would make the little ideas, little songs in FL Studio or Fruity Loops. It was back in the day. I would make them linearly because that's how it kind of worked out. Mind blowing. So when I discovered that, I was like, oh my god. So I kind of broke it down like a mathematician. Like you get like a huge equation. You don't just start solving it. You break it down into smaller and more manageable equations. And this is one of those equations. It's like, yeah, this is the basic of the basic of the basic DNA of a track. Like this applies to house, to techno, to minimal, to trance, to everything. Kick, closed hi-hat or open, whatever, and then clap. And once you know, when you're like starting out and you do this for the first time, it's amazing. You're like, wow, this passes, right? So one of the things that I struggled with is a bass line or like getting bass ideas. And I was like, yeah, they don't sound good. And you go through presets and stuff like that. Also, I totally moved that MIDI without even thinking, which is interesting. So like, muscle memory builds, and I could probably do this with like just muscle memory. Anyway, so there's MIDI. And what I would do is I would have a silent one because this was like the most awesomest thing ever. Like this, this was amazing. Like, you can have like 8 voices plus 8 plus like so much polyphony, and like it barely even hits a CPU. Mind you, it aliases a lot. But back in the day, this was like groundbreaking. It was the most amazing thing ever. So what I would do is I would just, and I'd be like, I'd be looking for basses. And then I thought, okay, I need to figure this out. So the first thing that I learned was this awesome preset called init. And what is the most basic bass that you can put? I'd say 8th. And just put that over there. Select that. That's a little bit too high up there. Hold the shift and press down. Right? Fs are pretty cool. So what I would do is I would kind of just work on this and get really frustrated, just kind of trying new shapes. And I'd be like, oh my god, this isn't working for me. Until I discovered this distortion module thing, which did something pretty cool, and also this filter. So the filters are very important. Filters create, they do a lot. They cut things out, but they actually add a lot of beefiness. It's all about the relativity of the frequency space. And what I'll do is do that. I did this backwards. So I discovered, I guess, the filter first. The little click is because the release isn't quite long enough. And what I would do is I would boost the resonance. And I'd boost the drive. And then I'd use the distort. And that created a really interesting sound. And this is when I discovered that it's not about the initial, in terms of basses, it's not about like the initial sound that you have. It's all about how you affect the basic sound. So this basic sound is a saw. And I learned this because one of the traps I got into was I explored way too many VSTs. Like if like I got sound or whatever, and I was like I couldn't get a sound I was looking for, and I was like, okay, it must be the VST. So I'd try a different one, and I'd try a different one, and I'd just go on, and I wouldn't learn anything. Like I didn't know what all of this meant. And what I used to do is I would just go left to right, and I would just like see what it sounded like when I move these things without even kind of comprehending what they do. Like there was no kind of theory. So that was a trap. So then I don't know what it was, but I was just like, okay, I'm gonna pick one thing, and I'm gonna learn that, and I'm not gonna use anything else because jumping around to different VSTs, there's like different layouts, different UIs, different customizations and stuff like that. And eventually, I got this. And it got to the point where I was just like, I understood what the modulation envelope was. And I knew how to do that. Figured out how to do that. And that is a basis of like, the filter opening and closing. And then you get like this really cool, like offbeat bass thing. Right? And if you play around with the resonance, you get a completely different vibe, a different kind of timbre. And, you can play around with this till the cows come home, but guess what? You have all this stuff here. And when you realize that, you're like, okay, let's do some stuff here. So one of the things that really confused me was like the EQ. And I didn't understand like what it was left to right. I just kind of got the visual feedback because when I started, it was like the first EQ in FL Studio. And wait, do they still have it? Let me find this. I really hope you're enjoying this format. This format is more of like a free form kind of. FL Studio is here, I know it. My eyes are deceiving me. I got SimCity 2000 on here. There it is. So the EQ that I was into, and that I learned, where is it? Was EQ. Oh my god, EQ. This one, parametric EQ. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? It looked a lot less good. It was like way less responsive because I started out like FL Studio 3, which back in its day was it was just called Fruity Loops 3.6, something like that. We're up to like version 12 or 13 or whatever. But yeah, this is what I started out with. This is like my introduction to EQing, and I didn't like, what the heck does that, like that star? You know what I mean? And like this looks like, a pair of lips or something. And like I don't know, like I don't even think it had this down here. Like there was no kind of feedback. So that was my introduction. Like no clue what was what. But I watched a YouTube video, and this video inspired me to make all these videos. Like all the videos that you see, and the one you're watching now, and all the ones that you see on my YouTube channel, is because of this video called Andy Vax Mixing Secrets. And it's really something special to behold. And it showed me like, oh my god, like it's all about the mix. And once I discovered that and how you can shape the sound, like EQ is not for like correction, it can be for shaping as well. Right? Oh, here's something I used to do. Okay. Something I used to do is I would put an auto filter and I'd reverse it here, and I would just bump up the low end here. So you listen to like a lot of my earlier tracks, it would have like this nasty bump in the bottom. The filter has since changed. It's a lot more high quality, but I think there was like some aliasing going on in there or something. It was pretty neat. And if I had, like all these options down here, I could add some drive. All right. And yeah, that's basically it for that. So one of the things I would struggle with would be these basses. And from there, you know what I should do? I'm gonna restart here. What I first got into, I was trying to make like trance music. So I'll go up to like 140, and yeah, what I would do is I would use a lot of the Vengeance stuff because that's what it was. Like this was around 2009, and I was part of like I guess the resurgence of I guess the techno movement. But techno that's like really fast. And yeah, we used a lot of like the Club Sounds 3 and 2. And yeah, we had just I don't know, like this is when I kind of got my start professionally. '08 to '09 to '10, and I started my channel in 2013. So yeah, there was like a span of time when I had all my record labels, and you know I would know, I was played out on in like parties and stuff like that. You know, I had so many different aliases, and like you know I rediscover them. Like oh my god, that one was actually played quite a bit. You know, I had yeah. I'll get into that later. It's like my entire history if you're interested. But what I would do is I had the same problem with like this techno bass line, and I was like, how do you figure this out, right? And I discovered that if you use these kicks in such a way, and then maybe and I maybe use something like that, and what I'm listening for is say right click show fades. So this is gonna be the basis of my kick. Right, and I'd maybe just shave that last little bit, right? And I would just move that up there. And this would be like my low end of the kick on the offbeat sort of thing, right? And with that, I was like, oh my god, you can make bass lines out of kicks, which I find fascinating. Right? And from there, you know, it needs to be shaped a little bit. So I would discover the EQ8. And then I would shape this guy. And I noticed that a lot of techno had a dip around here. And that's why I usually dip around here in my main kick. Because the Vengeance stuff is just so processed, but like, you know, it just clears out that low end. So there's room for the sub and then room for the high end. And then when you kind of limit the end, it works out well. And, you know, just sounds better, I find. You don't have to do that. So, you know, like the magic thing about like the club sound stuff, like when I was working, this is all I used. And, you know, it's kind of like, you know, not very positive nowadays. But when was the date modified? Oh wait, yeah, that date. Is there no, maybe not. I don't want date modified. I want date created. Yeah, 2006. 2006, and then 3 was 2008. Yeah, so that's around the time that I was you know, doing this sort of thing. Yeah, 2012. So yeah, like 1, 2, and 3. And like the thing about these packs is, amazingly, these loops were very techno-y, and everyone used them. Everyone used them like a lot, and you could do all sorts of cool stuff with them. But it was the basis for a techno groove that you were about to create, right? Right, then you do all sorts of stuff like this, and you kind of do a bit of manipulation, right? And Yeah, like a lot of these are so iconic. I've probably looked through these like 1,000 times. Like I know exactly which one's coming up next. Right? Right. So you have something like that, just an idea. All right. Like you can just drag in loops till the cows come home, and if that works for you, fine. But you want to edit them in a way. Right. So we got that. Right. So you can take that guy and move that over there. Or move that over there. Or maybe not. Right. Maybe pitch that one down. And with Ableton, you could do something really cool. So you can capture not the transients. It warps, but you can split it up into like time sections. And this is something that I did quite a bit. Right? And then from there, shape the sound. Add some reverb. And then maybe add a filter with an envelope. And yeah, you can do all sorts of stuff like that. Or you can just take that out completely and just have that little... Then rewarp it. So you like discover little bits and pieces of Ableton. And from here, what I might do is I would unwarp that, and then I can stretch that in and out. And I might want to get rid of that little fadey fade there. And then just kind of tune it to taste. It doesn't have to be perfect. Right? And then add more of a decay time. Open up this. And I would, sidechain this to the kick, which is channel 2. And I would just work my way down. And I would do things like drag in a compressor. And then I would this is before LFO tool came out, okay? So what I would do is I just turn on the draw tool, and then I would just manually draw in the sidechain for the entire clip. Right? And that would just be what I would do. Like, to me, this was a lot easier to kind of draw in and dial in like a pumping sidechain effect. This will then give me room to maybe add in another one. Add in another loop to dissect. Right? Maybe something like this. Nope, maybe not. Something like this, maybe. Nope. Oh, and something really awesome. This is not something that I pioneered, but I was like, you know what? There's no rules. Let's go into Vengeance House. And what I would do is I'd use these like percussive loops here. Or even, let's say, I think it was It's been so long. Oh no, is this? It had to be this, right? Yeah, the Latin house. Right? And I would just kind of putting these grooves and stuff like that. Or right? Stuff like this. Right? Maybe just have those. Right? I like this kind of Latin-y thing. And this was like funky techno, and I had a lot of releases like this. Oops. And I would go repitch. And then I would carve them out and stuff like that. And, you know, this is all within this loop. It's very important. Right, so from there, I turned off that sidechainy thing. I would actually group this. And I'd kind of work on the elements separately. Something like that, and that's like the basic, I guess, hard techno groove, you know, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, from there, I would just keep on adding elements. One of my favorite things I would add, I'll just stay in this for now, is I would add like a ride. And I'd really like that. And I had a problem because I wanted it to kind of loop around. So the idea is that you just take that, go over there, bam, bam, and there you go. Whoa, that was loud. Sorry about that. And yeah, think about these hi-hats as they have so much energy. Right? So from there, what I would do is I would, you know, a lot of it is stabs. A lot of stabs are used, and yeah, let's get that cutted sounds. I guess that's what they called it. All right, so just for the sake of time, I'm just going to put that one in there. So it's basically, you know, a sampled sound. Right? So I might do something like that, or... And I'd put that in. And I might do something techno-y. So... Right, just something basic. And to add some more movement and things like that, add a delay. It's not rocket science. It's supposed to be fun at the end of the day. And it's like you're not, when you're starting out, like this is what I did when I was starting out. It's not about, polishing things to a pristine condition. You're there to make fun and make fun. You're there to have fun and things like that. And you work on these little bits of DNA of track, and then once you're at a point where you're happy, you explode it out. And I guess that's the moral of the video. Just have fun and get this kind of thing going. You don't need to sit there and work on things. And like once you have this bit, you can get more advanced. Maybe you can add. See, that's more techno-y than that. So. Maybe that. Or you can just take that out completely, and then you have something that sounds pretty awesome. Right. And yeah, let's not get too crazy. But yeah, from there, you do all sorts of stuff. So that was like my techno phase, and then I did it all basically, and a lot of people left that scene, and the big thing was like everyone left to go make minimal, which I don't really get, even though I kind of did that too, just for fun. And then the dubstep scene came around, and then Skrillex was a household name. And I was like, all right, well, what's something else that I want to do? I've always liked house, and house and techno are very much like interchangeable. Not interchangeable, but like you know what I mean. So what I would do is I would sample disco records. I'm gonna try not to sample too much of this. All right, okay, that's just completely out of random. And this is gonna be the basis for my house track. And this is what I freaking love doing, and I still love doing it. I still love sampling, and it's great. And it's rewarding, and it's a little bit naughty, and that's the way I like it. All right, let's move over there a little bit. Maybe over here. All right, so I'd take a little bit of a snippet and maybe just do that. Right, so the pitch is a little messed up, and I don't want to play too much to fix it, but let's just complex it. Maybe this. All right, just whatever. That's all well and good. And again, this is just, in a one bar loop, and this is disco house, French house. This is filter house. This is all the houses. Right, and yeah, what I would do is I would just compress the hell out of it, and then manually sidechain this. Oh, wrong way. I want to fix that. Yeah, sometimes you gotta use a metronome. Sometimes you mess up the grid. That's okay. All right, I would do that. And then a cool thing about Vengeance, they have some really neat house beats and stuff from, you know, classic house beat stuff. Right? Lifelike. That's from Lifelike. All right, you just add that in. Right, something like that. All right, so we got that. Right. That up. And let's get some house loops going on. All right, that should be good. Okay. Maybe I'll take these out. And maybe just have the kick because it claps in there anyway. We'll get it. Promise. All right, let's repitch this. Maybe get an alternative going. I'm totally using that. I don't care what you think. If you don't know where that's from, I don't know. I can't help you. Right? And, you know, don't focus on the track. Just get an idea down. Right? I'm boosting that low end. I want that low end to just buzz right in. Right? Add a limiter in there because it's supposed to be dirty. All right, I'm going to use this, but I'm just going to use the hi-hats. All right, I'll just put that in there. Right, and then just doot. And that's basically how I go about doing my thing. Right, and even just have this. See what it sounds like over here. from there, you know, I would just add a limiter, or not a limiter, filter, filter house. Anyway, if you're into that kind of music, listen to The Nightclub and look up on YouTube the sampling of house. And you'll get so many. It's really interesting how they take like these old records and just take a snippet, you know, a lot more better and creative than I just did, but they take a snippet and they make it work in a really funky disco house setting. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's kind of a weird format. I just wanted to get something out. And yeah, hope you learned stuff. And take care and have a good one.